Twilight's World, written by Groucho Pony, read by no one and nobody.
Chapter 13. Royal Duties. Luna's teleport brought her back to the palace, where she arrived in a flash of light. Hovering outside the balcony of her personal tower, she took a moment to look about, seeing the city of Canterlot glowing under her nighttime sky. Her brow furrowed as she gazed upon the lights of the city. Somewhere within its districts was the lair of some pony who scoffed at royal law, practicing proscribed magics.
Never let it be spoken that Luna hath failed her friend Twilight. I shall do my utmost to apprehend whomever hath done this unto her,
was the singular thought on Luna's mind. Blinking her eyes to clear away some unexpected moisture, Luna released her frown and flew towards the balcony, where she landed and made her way into the tower. Passing through the balcony's antechamber, she turned to the two guards who were stationed there. Originally holding themselves at somewhat relaxed attention, the two guards, a corporal and a private, now stiffened to full attention as the princess's gaze fell upon them. For her part, Luna barely noticed their response. Her worries for Twilight gnawed at her even as she spoke.
Corporal, thou must send word to the captain of the watch. We require him to ready and assemble 2 squads of the guard formed in standard EUP mix. Inform the captain to have them ready in the assembly area in 1 hour.
After having given the order, Luna felt an urgent need to depart, to get on with the search for Twilight's wrongdoer, but caught herself before turning away. It simply would not do a princess to show disrespect to her troops by ignoring them. As expected, the corporal acknowledged the princess's order with a salute.
"At once, your highness."
Luna nodded and turned swiftly away towards the tower's stairwell. Dropping his salute, the corporal paused briefly to pass some instructions to the other guard, who would remain behind. After a moment, the corporal was trotting briskly after the princess towards the stairwell. Luna, having the advantage of wings, used them shamelessly to turn her descent of the tower's staircase into a rapid series of gliding leaps. The corporal, though a Pegasus, declined to do so. The princesses may have not been subject to royal guard regulations on the subject of appropriate behavior, but the corporal certainly was.
"Stairwells are to be traveled using one's hoofs. EUP Guard Regulations, Section 8, Subsection 2, Item 14.
The last 2 flights of the stairwell opened up considerably as they descended into the voluminous chamber occupying the base of the tower. Luna took those 2 flights by leaping over the balustrade and descending in a steep glide, banking sharply at the bottom of the chamber to line up with a doorway to the left. Luna's coordination was impeccable, in that just before she impacted the closed door, her horn glowed with magic, to swing open the door even as her wings flared majestically, reducing her speed to deposit her onto 2 opposing hooves and into a graceful trot. Without the slightest break in her forward motion, Luna folded her wings and proceeded through the doorway and into the courtyard beyond. There, across the courtyard, was her objective, the Royal Administrative Building. Before the door to the tower closed behind her, Luna caught a glimpse of the corporal descending the last 2 flights of the stairwell, on his hooves, of course. Luna's lips twitched in a brief smile as she noted the corporal's discretion in not letting her catch him use his wings, which he most obviously had to have done in order to have descended the stairwell so rapidly. As she crossed the courtyard, Luna recalled a conversation she had had with the captain of the guard during the first year following her return. She'd been reviewing the modern-day guard regulations and had been quite pleased with herself to have identified scores of ridiculous regulations, which she had loudly proclaimed, "could only hinder the guard in their duties." Luna smiled as she remembered how Shining Armor had explained those same regulations to her.
Some of the guard regulations are carefully designed to be onerous for any guard performing their day-to-day duties. Most ponies will simply plod along observing those regulations. Those are the good, reliable guards. Some smart flanks will flout the regulations and soon identify themselves by getting caught. With a little extra attention, we can shape them into very effective guards. But it's the truly clever ponies, the ones we end up tagging as potential officers, who show that they know when it's correct to observe the regulations and when it's possible to disregard them.
Luna suspected that the corporal was destined to become an officer. However, such thoughts were of no consequence. Finding Twilight was what mattered at the moment, and Luna was approaching her own destination. Upon entering the Royal Administrative Offices, Luna wasted no time. She walked past the reception booths and into the main office area, and unleashed her Royal Canterlot voice.
Cease your activities, and give heed unto thy princess!
Loose papers blew wildly, names danced about, and after the echoes had subsided, dust trickled down from the lamps above. Luna paused, to allow the ponies time to give her their full attention. Or rather, just those ponies which had not taken fright at the sound of her voice, and were still huddled under their desks. The mere fact that some had hidden under their desks was a sad reminder to Luna of the valuable lesson which Twilight had taught her about the use of her Royal Canterlot voice. If thoughts of Twilight rekindled the ache in Luna's heart, they also helped her focus on communicating her needs to the office workers more clearly. She needed to speak with a kinder, more modern voice. Luna cleared her voice and continued.
Your attention, please. An extremely urgent matter has arisen. We, your Royal Princess of the Sun and Moon, must locate a certain business establishment which is believed to be situated within Canterlot. We must ascertain all there is to know about this business, where it is located, who its owners are, and what all their previous dealings might have been. If the Deputy Assistant Manager of the Exchequer, the Assistant of the Deputy Vice Mayor of Canterlot, and the Knight Assistant Deputy Keeper of the Royal Archives would join us, we shall be able to present what little information we have already obtained. To all ponies who are listening, I assure you that this matter is of the gravest concern to your princesses. As soon as a plan is formulated and assignments are issued, we urge you to exercise your utmost care and diligence in this task.
The three managers which had been called out by Luna fairly scrambled to come forward, after which they all made haste to enter the nearest available office of sufficient size to hold them all. Their discussions were short, however. After a mere 5 minutes, the managers emerged and started giving instructions to the awaiting administrators and clerks. Luna sighed as she attempted to wait patiently. Her chair was slightly undersized for her frame, and rather uncomfortable, as generic office furniture was wont to be. For the 6th time in the last 10 minutes, she wondered if she should reconsider the decision which had caused her to relocate to the tiny meeting room she presently found herself in.
No,
she sadly reminded herself again.
I am their princess, and it will not do to burden the managers with unfounded fears that I could be divining their secrets by rummaging through their offices and their privacy.
At that moment, a clerk entered the room, levitating a pile of folders. Luna's discomfort vanished as she watched the pile of documents being placed on the table in front of her. Her magic reached eagerly for the topmost folder. Luna barely had the presence of mind to dismiss the clerk who had brought her the documents.
We thank thee. Thou art dismissed.
Reading the documents, Luna began to form a picture of one certain business, originally known as Enchanted Books, which had existed quietly in Canterlot for the last 29 years, earning its proprietor only a modest income.
If it pleases your highness, I brought you a more comfortable chair.
Luna's intense thoughts were interrupted by the return of the clerk who had brought her the documents, a dark gray stallion with a dark pink mane. Being jarred away from her thoughts, Luna's brief mental disorientation manifested itself as a scowl directed at the clerk trying to curry her favor. Seeing Luna's scowl, the clerk wondered if his boldness had brought trouble down on his head. However, Luna's expression quickly cleared up, and her next words calmed his nerves.
"Didst thou say a chair? Certes, our royal flank hath little love for that upon which it now rests. We command thee, bring forth thy more comfortable chair."
Luna's face and posture was now the very picture of eagerness, with her ears canted forwards, and her starry mane undulating more rapidly behind her. The stallion gulped as he lit his horn to roll the chair into the office. If the princess did not like the chair he had brought, then trouble might still find him. His knees nearly buckled as Princess Luna took the chair from his control. Standing on her hooves, she moved the chair into position under her flank. The old chair was now practically tossed aside, underscoring how little the princess thought of it.
"Ah, much better."
Luna voiced her pleasure.
"Tell me, what is thy name?"
she asked with a smile.
My name is Brightshine,"
said the stallion. His cutie mark was the image of a large silver orb, with a sparkle near the upper edge, suggesting a bright light was gleaming off of it. Brightshine relaxed into a happy and relieved smile as he answered the princess, now certain that he had won her favor. Luna dropped her smile.
"Thou art forgiven for interrupting us, Brightshine, for truly that other chair was undeserving of its name. However, our need is great, and we shall brook no more interruptions, unless thou shalt bring more documents for our perusal. Do you understand?"
The princess added emphasis by switching up to modern Equish, while staring Brightshine directly in the eyes. No longer smiling, but rather gulping nervously with his mouth gone dry, and unable to speak, Brightshine could only nod his head sharply. He felt like a rabbit cornered by a fox. Luna directed her gaze away from the stallion.
"Thou art clever and perceptive, Brightshine, for none other but thee saw fit to address our discomfort. Use thy talents to serve other ponies, instead of aggrandizing thyself."
Luna returned to her study of the documents, even as Brightshine scrambled to make a hasty retreat from her presence. There were no further interruptions until 20 minutes later, when Brightshine quietly dropped a second small pile of documents onto the desk. When Luna eventually opened the second set of documents, her expression became grim. In the courtyard of the assembly area, the guards were getting restless. There was nothing overt about it, but to the watch captain, whose business it was to know such things, it was blatantly obvious. Ears twitched nervously, tails flicked in minute movements. Heads would toss, and occasionally eyes would scrutinize the entryway which led to the castle interior. A full 30 minutes past the time set by Luna, she arrived in the courtyard, through that self-same entryway. As Luna passed the 2 squads of the guards, now standing at attention, she noted with wry amusement that the corporal she had met in the tower had managed to find himself a spot in one of the squads. Obviously, the captain of the watch had seen something in the corporal as well, and had granted him an opportunity to join the action. Luna trotted up to the captain.
"Thank you, Captain, for your patience with us."
"We are the guard, Your Highness,"
the captain replied.
"We are always ready to serve."
"Nevertheless, Captain, wasting your time serves neither ourselves nor our sister Celestia. Please allow your ponies to stand at ease. We wish to address them."
"Yes, Princess."
The captain turned to the assembled guards.
"Right squad, left squad, at ease,"
he bellowed. All of the assembled guards' ponies moved simultaneously into a more relaxed stance. A dozen tails, which had been held out in proud display, now relaxed downwards. 24 ears, which had been held rigidly unmoving at forward attention, were now able to move freely. Many of those same ears soon pinned back in an unconscious display of displeasure at having been kept standing in formation for the past hour. Luna trotted out before the 2 squads, preparing herself to address them in modern Equish.
"Guards of Equestria," she began, "we regret to inform you that harm has befallen our dear Princess Twilight Sparkle through the inadvertent misfire of a spell from a magical artifact."
Upon this revelation, the guards shifted uneasily, and a few mutters could be heard. Many of the guards knew Twilight from her days when she was a student under Princess Celestia, and all of them knew of her as Equestrian's 4th and newest princess. The captain drew a breath, preparing to bellow a command at the guards' ponies, but held his peace when Luna raised a wing in front of him.
Please, Captain, give them a moment. I am sure they will settle down.
Perhaps the guards overheard Luna's comment to the captain, because they abruptly grew silent. Only now their attention was firmly fixed on the Princess of the Moon, straining to hear whatever else she had to say. They did not have long to wait.
Princess Twilight would not have recognized this spell, for it is known only to Princess Celestia and us, an ancient and prescribed magic, and we ourselves are not well conversant with it. It is our desire to apprehend, alive and unharmed, the pony or ponies responsible for creating this magical artifact. We require them unharmed, so that they should be made to assist us in undoing the harm that has been done unto Princess Twilight.
Complete silence had fallen upon the guards. There were no more ticks, flicks, and twitches amongst them now. Now they beheld Luna with an earnest desire to assist in capturing an evildoer.
One of our targets is a business known as Enchanted Books.
Luna continued with barely a pause.
For nearly 30 years, this business has conducted itself quietly under the name of Enchanted Books, until 2 years ago. At that time, the business was sold, and its original proprietor retired. It is our belief that the original owner of the business has some knowledge of the prescribed magics we seek. One squad will be tasked with the duty of finding that pony and returning them here to Canterlot.
Luna now paused in her speech. As the moments dragged on, the guards could not help but wonder what task awaited the other squad.
When Enchanted Books was sold, its new proprietor changed its name to the House of Enchanted Comics. This is our second target, and now I must tell you the reason we were delayed tonight.
Again, there was a slight pause before Luna continued.
Our investigations of this House of Enchanted Comics show that it has been the subject of numerous legal filings. All of these legal filings have been made by ponies claiming that the wares sold by the House of Enchanted Comics have been the cause of deleterious effects upon their foals.
A titter arose from some of the assembled guards, those who remembered their own parents telling them that comics would rot their minds.
We assure thee 'tis no laughing matter,
Luna hissed angrily at the guards. Their ranks abruptly grew silent again.
We speak of effects such as stupor and lethargy, diminished magic, and even reduced mental capacity, some of which claims were accompanied by medical affidavits.
Some of the guards bore a shocked appearance as their eyes flew wide open, while the pupils of many more eyes than theirs were irised down to points.
Taken individually, the lower courts could not help but see each such suit as being nothing more than random coincidence. Certainly nothing like cause and effect was presented. Thus, all these suits were denied, all 18 of them. There were 4 that should have not been,
Luna thought unhappily to herself.
But when presented together before us, our eyes saw a pattern of dark magic being used, that these enchanted comics have been siphoning off the magical energies of the young foals who were reading them.
An angry mutter arose from the guards now. The amusement of a few moments ago was now transformed into outrage.
We cannot say with certainty that dark magic is being used, but the possibility is great. For this reason, we have prepared certain countermeasures.
At that point, Luna levitated a small dark bag out from underneath her flowing mane. The bag opened, and a constellation of dark red jewels floated out, dispersing towards right squad. 2 of the jewels were directed towards left squad.
These are my dream rubies. You will each take one and place it on your helmet. They are enchanted so as to stick onto your helmet, quite firmly, so be careful where you place them. These jewels will allow me to travel with you in a waking dream, allowing me to see what you see and hear what you hear, and, if necessary, to act on your behalf against the workings of dark magic.
The guards of right squad each took their proffered ruby, but hesitated to apply them to their helmets. Instead, soft whispers and mutters could be heard. As they continued to procrastinate, Luna grew irritated.
Why do you delay? Affix the dream rubies onto your helmets.
The unicorn stallion at the head of right squad, Sergeant Sharplance, stepped forward and answered the princess. Your Highness, we are concerned that the dream rubies will allow you to hear our thoughts, and that...
Say no more, Sergeant, Luna interrupted. Yes, the dream rubies will allow us to hear your thoughts.
The muttering increased in volume. But Luna's raised voice stilled the muttering.
Only such thoughts as you explicitly speak towards us. We shall not hear any of the random thoughts or concerns that might roll about your minds. But know this.
Luna's eyes flashed white.
We are Luna, Princess of the Night and Guardian of Dreams. As such, we have seen many secrets within the dreams and nightmares of our subjects, and we have never betrayed this trust. Not even when the nightmare did rule our heart. If any guard does not have sufficient faith to trust us at this time, then let them fall out now. We shall not hold this against them. It must be this way, for without the Dream Ruby, we cannot protect you from the dark magics.
A shuffling was heard from the squad, and Luna immediately closed her eyes and turned away. Her heart was heavy, fearing that what she was hearing was the sound of the entire squad falling out. When the sound of shuffling ceased, Luna opened her eyes and turned back. What she saw nearly made her heart burst, for all of the guards had set the dark red jewels upon their helmets. Not a single one had chosen to depart. Along with the broad smile she was suddenly sporting, Luna could feel tears forming in her eyes.
Thank you,
she whispered to them in the silence of her own thoughts.
Thank you for trusting me.
It meant so much to her to have the loyalty of these guards ponies. It lifted her spirits to no end and gave her confidence that Twilight would soon be found. It had been a long and wearying day for Princess Celestia. Anxiety over Twilight's fate beat on the back of her mind like a drum, slowly altering her perceptions. As the day wore on, it became increasingly difficult to look with kindness upon the little ponies who petitioned her. Whenever she did decide in their favor, it began to feel like they were imposing on her generosity. Still, the princess held on to her composure. The depths of reserve and forbearance learned over the last 1,000 years helped to keep her both outwardly and inwardly calm.
This is the last one,
she resolved.
Soon I won't be able to remain objective.
The next petitioner, an obviously well-fed noble stallion by the name of Cold Edge, began his petition by attempting to portray himself as a type of starving artist who suffered for his art. His body so obviously contradicted his presentation that Celestia was hard-pressed not to giggle. Again, a millennium of practice aided her greatly, and Celestia was able to show interest in what the noble stallion was presenting. It was not long before Cold Edge began to unveil the heart of his petition.
And in my vision, I saw a glorious statue of you, my princess. You stood fully 100 hooves high at the withers, sculpted of the finest white marble, gleaming in your own glorious...
Celestia tuned him out, but maintained an interested expression on her face. In her long reign, she had been constantly assaulted by nobles and artists alike, who thought that she was capable of being bedazzled by gifts and flattery.
When will they learn?
Celestia sighed inwardly.
I'm far more interested in bettering the lives of my little ponies.
Celestia's attention was suddenly drawn back to the noble stallion.
What?
Instantly, Celestia's mind recalled the words spoken over the last few seconds, and caught up with the stallion's oration.
In my vision, I saw that the ideal location for the statue is a small tract of land situated between my estate and that of Fancy Pants, just above Trace Street. From which location you would always have a most excellent and unimpeded view of your glorious statue. To that end, we petition your highness to expropriate that parcel of underutilized land so that it can be redeemed as a park whose centerpiece would be...
Celestia tuned out the noble stallion again, to better deal with her seething anger.
Does this fool think that I cannot see this statue for what it truly is?
Celestia's thoughts fairly shouted at the pony.
His entire proposal is a veiled attempt to remove that block of lower-class houses. A vicious and calculated plan to dispossess hundreds of hard-working Canterlot families of their homes.
The sheer callousness of the stallion's petition sickened Celestia. There was no kindness for his fellow pony in his intentions. His generosity was only to himself, and would in fact impoverish hundreds of families as they were forced to scramble amongst themselves for the few homes that would still be found in Canterlot. Most would be forced to leave the city and seek their livelihoods elsewhere. Celestia felt sickened, and she countered that feeling by becoming angry. So, while the foal prattled on, Celestia found herself on the verge of igniting into flames. So hot was her anger. Indeed, her mane gleamed very brightly, and her royal pillow now bore scorch marks, showing a fine imprint of the royal plot. In the end, the noble stallion concluded his petition without incident, and Princess Celestia simply thanked him for bringing the matter to her attention, informing him that she could consider his request and give it all the attention it deserved. Oblivious to the delicate stream of smoke arising from the princess, Cold Edge turned about and pranced away happily, convinced that the achievement of his clever design was imminent. The ignorant foal exited the throne room, escorted out by one of the guards. Celestia snorted, releasing her anger. She stood up in an effort to stretch her muscles and relieve some of the tension she had been holding in. Calmly eyeing the puff of smoke which had arisen from her pillow after she raised her flank, Celestia called out to the sergeant of the guards.
"I think that will be enough for today, Sergeant. No more audiences."
Next, Celestia spoke to her secretary, Precious Prose, a white unicorn with a chocolate-brown mane done up in a conservative bun.
"Miss Prose, please cancel the rest of my appointments for the day and have that pillow destroyed. After that, you may consider yourself free for the day."
Celestia flashed her secretary a brief smile.
"Go, enjoy yourself."
A clatter of familiar hooves behind Celestia caused a faint smile to grace her face, as she noted the arrival of her sister, Princess Luna. Luna took a moment to eye the pillow being levitated away by Precious Prose, still smoking. It looked positively charred.
"Thou shouldst have taught that knave a lesson, my sister. The simpleness of his ploy was an insult to both thine intelligence and thy honor,"
stated Luna, as she mounted up the steps of the pedestal upon which resided their shared throne.
"I very nearly did, Luna."
Celestia squeezed her eyes shut and lowered her head.
"But I think I will wait until I am calmer before I render any decision. He is a fool, and a stupid one at that. Rest assured, I will find an appropriate response to lessen him with that."
Luna drew back to obtain a better look at her sister. There, for those who knew how to read an alicorn, were the subtle signs of stress. There, a tiny ripple in Celestia's flowing mane, which caused a few locks to dance to a different flow, all but invisible amidst the rest of her mane. When Luna spoke again, it was with a softer voice.
"I perceive that thou art distraught. 'Tis well indeed, Celestia, that thou hast chosen to end thy court early."
Celestia looked away, as though she were reluctant to discuss the issue. Luna placed a wing over Celestia's withers and nuzzled her cheek. Using modern Equish, she spoke again to Celestia.
"I do understand, sister. He was nearly made into a lightning rod for your inner discomposure. In truth, you are bedeviled and pursued by thoughts of our dear friend Twilight, as likewise am I."
Ever the consummate master of concealing her emotions, Celestia merely stood there, observing her sister. But the signs were there. Luna could see that her comments had struck true. Attempting to lift Celestia's spirits, Luna gave out a tidbit of information.
"Be of good cheer, sister. I bring what may be good news."
Celestia finally revealed her emotions, as her breath caught.
"Did you find the pony?" "I have indeed, dear sister. In fact, I found 2 of them. Word has just arrived of the apprehension of the second one. The first was apprehended earlier this morning."
Celestia's mood brightened considerably.
"Come, Luna. I suddenly have a craving for tea and cake. Why don't we go to our lounge, and then you can tell me all about it."
Located behind the back wall of the throne room was a service area containing a guard room and also several storage closets for the various accoutrements that decorated the throne room. Behind those was the royal lounge. The royal lounge was a spacious yet cozy chamber with a massive hooded fireplace, several bookshelves, and 2 large couches set along a low-slung tea table. A substantive fire crackled and hissed inside the fireplace, a magic spell cast by Celestia causing the logs to burn eternally. Despite the eternal flames, whatever the season, the room never became overly warm, because another spell limited the amount of heat radiated by the fire to always be just sufficient for making the room warm and comfortable, but never too hot. Though the lounge and its fireplace had existed for hundreds of years, the wall opposite the eternally blazing fireplace held a double door that was only a few years old. It was a heavy door made from a pale ironwood and intricately carved with a depiction of the 2 Alicorn sisters in rampant poses, their figures lavishly depicted with inlays of gold, amethyst, and mother of pearl, silver, schorl, and lunite. 1 figure was placed onto each door. It was to this room that the diarchs often retreated whenever they took breaks from their court sessions. This day, however, the lounge was not empty. A solitary figure in purple and green sat close in front of the roaring fire. He sat with his little knees huddled up to his chest, occasionally giving mournful sighs. Spike felt absolutely useless. The girls had their lives and their work. Celestia had her court, and he had nothing. He didn't even have any books to shelve, and Twilight was gone. Spike was so lost in self-pity that when the double door began to open, his first and only thought was to hide himself. Before the glowing door had fully opened to admit the 2 Alicorn sisters into the room, Spike had scooted around the side of the fireplace and hid himself successfully behind it. The moment Celestia entered the room, the golden glow from her horn enveloped a tiny bell sitting unobtrusively on a side table beside one of the couches. It danced merrily in the air for a second, emitting a tiny crystalline tinkle, before settling itself down on the side table again. Magically linked with a similar bell in an adjoining room, it announced to the palace staff that one of the princesses required their attention. Not 2 seconds passed before a much less elaborate door in one of the side walls was pushed open to admit a nervous-looking mare wearing the livery of a palace maid. Her tail, which should have been held up proudly, was very low and practically hugging her belly. Her ears were slowly waving back and forth, as though unsure whether they should be pinned back in fear or pointed forward at attention. Celestia took note of how nervous the maid appeared, and made an effort to settle her own nerves before addressing the mare.
This is your first time attending us, isn't it, Clouddrop?
The maid, a Pegasus mare with a silver-gray coat and a silver mane, froze when she realized Princess Celestia knew her name. She cleared her throat, but found herself too nervous to speak, eventually settling for an abrupt bob of her head.
And you've been working here at the palace for, 3, maybe 4 weeks now?
Astonished that Princess Celestia knew so much about her mundane existence, Clouddrop forgot her nervousness and began to come out of her freeze.
Yes, Your Royal Highness,
she replied.
Please, just call me Princess. Could you do me that favor, Clouddrop?
Celestia coaxed.
Yes, of course, Princess.
Clouddrop blushed prettily, overcome by the princess's gentle voice and the sudden confidence bestowed upon her. No longer frozen, Clouddrop now remembered her duties as a maid.
How may I serve you, Princess?
Celestia smiled at Clouddrop.
My sister and I would have some tea, and also some of that delicious cloud cake, if there is any left. Right away, Princess.
Clouddrop bowed to each princess and trotted from the room, her tail now flagging her newfound pride, that of a happy servant. Even as Clouddrop left, the two princesses approached their respective couches. Luna, now reclining on her couch, felt the urge to comment on what had just occurred.
From a nervous filly thou hast created another devoted servant. At times I do envy thee, sister, for whom such deeds are but fool's play.
A sigh accompanied the last statement.
Don't envy me too much, Luna. Yes, my kind and generous nature makes it easy for me to gain the confidence and adoration of my subjects. But from that same nature they hold me in their hearts, as though I were their mother. Many will venerate me, but few will befriend me.
Now Celestia sighed. A few seconds later, Celestia resumed.
At times I envy you, Luna. Yes, you may have a bold and direct way of speaking, which drives ponies away from you. But despite that, there are always those who are willing to face the truth, those who find in themselves some smidgen of loyalty and end up becoming your friends. So how is it, Luna, that you are envious of me, when you have more friends than I do?
Luna eyed Celestia. It was so unlike Celestia to speak in such a manner. What did she mean when she claimed that Luna had more friends than her? Luna's eyes opened wide in astonishment.
Thou speakest of Twilight,
she declared.
Surely thou knowest she is thy friend also.
Celestia closed her eyes and hung her head low. Her ears wilted to the sides.
Nay, sister, do not fall prey to such lies,
Luna exclaimed, half rising from her couch.
Twilight's absence hath made thee distraught. Indeed, if thee doth begin to entertain such thoughts. I have seen Twilight's nightmares, Celestia, and some portion of her dreams which followed. Though I will not speak of what I have seen, I do know of a surety that Twilight holds you as her friend. Thou must only give her time to uncover this truth for herself.
Celestia's head and ears perked up, and her eyes were open again.
Thank you, Luna. Your words touch my heart and give me hope.
Celestia gave her sister a smile.
How do you do it, Luna? Watching over every pony's nightmares? 'Tis my duty, Tia. Something which I alone am able to do. It pleases me to guard our little ponies, to stand watch over their hearts in the darkness of the night and guide them with the light of truth.
Luna gave Celestia a quizzical look.
Doth thou think it strange of me if I should say I find it fulfilling?
Celestia smiled warmly at her sister.
No, Luna, it's not strange at all. Loyalty and honesty are a part of who you are. They were your elements, after all. And thou, Tia, even dost thou ease the hearts of our little ponies, lifting them up as thou didst with the maid. Thou wert most assuredly the bearer of kindness. But dost thou not grow weary of upholding all those who come before thee? Truthfully, Luna, it relaxes me,
Celestia stated.
Over the last 1,000 years, I have learned that one of the best things for improving my mood is helping other ponies to enjoy their work. Even the work of their hoofs can speak volumes about their joy.
Celestia nodded towards the double door they had entered by.
'Tis indeed a beautiful work of art, Tia, but I fail to comprehend this joy thou speakest of. It's so much more than a work of art, Lulu.
Celestia reciprocated Luna's familiar term with her own.
If you study it, you will see all of the love and care the artist took when working with his materials. How each jewel and each flake of pearl is perfectly shaped and perfectly fitted together, even down to the minutest detail. So,
Luna ventured a smile, having spotted Clouddrop entering the room with a tray holding their refreshments.
You appreciate having your likeness carved onto this door, but a 50-foot marble statue of thine own likeness would not be to thy liking?
Celestia blew a loud raspberry, causing Clouddrop to stop abruptly, her eyes wide.
Come in, Clouddrop. Just put the tray down on the tea table,
Celestia addressed the maid, showing Luna that she had been aware of her little prank all along. Clouddrop hurried to do so, suddenly anxious to avoid overhearing anything even more damning. Having deposited the tea, Clouddrop exited the room with as much haste as she could manage without breaking decorum. Celestia waited until Clouddrop left the lounge.
"Oh, Lulu, now Clouddrop is going to worry about losing her job, because she heard me acting a little unprincess-like. Since you were so interested in how I ease the hearts of ponies, I'm giving you the job of easing Clouddrop's heart." "What? Art thou not afraid that my bold and direct ways will not drive her away?" "I think you'll do just fine, Lulu. Just think of it as handling another bad dream. Show her the light of truth."
Luna grumbled, not having an answer for Celestia's last point. Belatedly, she realized that the prank had been turned around upon her. Not wishing to dwell upon her defeat, Luna changed the conversation back to the door again.
"So, you were saying something about finding joy in the doors?"
Celestia was willing to accept the change in topic. Apparently, she felt there was something special in the doors.
"If you only cared to look, Luna, you would see how an equal amount of pride went into both our images. Neither is greater, neither is lesser. That's what I love most about that door, Luna. It shows the two of us together."
Celestia closed her eyes and allowed a brief moment of silence to pass, when suddenly she shot up from her couch and stamped her right front hoof on the floor. The room shook, and the fire in the fireplace flared madly.
"We should all be together! It's driving me mad with worry, Luna. Twilight is our family, too. She is our newborn alicorn sister. Barely 3 months old, and yet she has been cruelly ripped from our sides by some miscreant's thoughtless magic."
A tear welled up in each of Celestia's eyes. If Coldedge had been able to stress a few strands of Celestia's ethereal mane earlier, it was nothing compared to Celestia's mane now. Her mane fairly seethed and writhed in disharmony.
"Tell me you have them, Luna. Tell me for certain that we have them and that there is no mistake,"
Celestia pleaded with her sister.
"Be thou assured, my dear sister," Luna affirmed. "We have them. One, the present owner of the House of Enchanted Comics, was a user of dark magics." "Dark magic? Why was I not informed? Was any pony hurt?"
Celestia asked with a grim intensity.
"Peace, good sister. I divine the nature of this beast through a reading of such court filings as have been levied against the business. Sister, it doth pain me to say that beyond the loss of our precious Twilight, many young foals have been harmed by those enchanted comics. Those nefarious artifacts were designed to siphon the magic of those who read them." "Are you certain, Luna?" "Indeed, I am, sister. Forewarned as to the nature of the beast, I devised a means to protect my guards and accompanied them to this house of dark repute. During the night hours, we entered the premises. With my assistance, the guards found and disabled numerous traps composed of dark magics. Further investigation led us to uncover various apparatus for magic capture and thaumaturgic distillation. It was most obvious that the stallion intended a vain attempt to attain eternal youth by consuming the magic of foals. After thoroughly searching the premises, we found several notebooks, one of which was on the workings of the Enchanted Books." "Then we have what we need to recover Twilight?"
Celestia asked eagerly, ignoring for the moment Luna's report of the dark magic that had been conducted there.
"Nay, we were not so fortunate. When the owner purchased Enchanted Books from the previous owner and renamed it as... must I say it? The House of Enchanted Comics, he received an occult spell package for creating the Enchanted Books, plus a few ancillary spells for investigating and maintaining them."
"Occult," Celestia murmured, disappointment written plainly on her face.
"In the end, the owner of that fell shop proved to be but a lost soul. As the morning came, so did the owner to open his shop. My guards awaited him inside his shop and easily took him unawares. It is sad, sister, but it appears he has been working the dark magics for too long, and his mind is so badly frayed that little remains of it. As soon as he perceived the guards holding him, he did begin to rant and rave about how he could use his dark and terrible powers upon us, thus confirming his guilt. E'en now, he still raves from his cell within the dungeons."
Celestia's face was expressionless now.
"What are we to do, Luna? If the workings of the spell for the Enchanted Book is hidden from our sight, and the shop owner's mind is too damaged? Dear sister, it pleases me to announce that we have found the former proprietor of the shop."
Celestia's eyes lit up with hope again.
"You have? Where are they?"
Suddenly, Celestia caught herself, and her eyes dimmed a bit.
"Will they be able to recover, Twilight?"
Luna answered Celestia's last question first. It was the one most important to her sister.
"The previous owner hath not dabbled in the dark magics, and should be able to assist us. When my guards questioned the mare, she did profess to having created the spell for the Enchanted Book."
Celestia stood up.
"Take me to her. I wish to speak with the mare." "She is not here. My guards do escort her hither, and doth bring her on the train from Baltimore." "From Baltimore? But you said—"
Celestia's eyes narrowed, and she looked at her sister. Luna also narrowed her eyes and returned her sister's stare, as if daring her to voice her concerns.
"Dream rubies."
Celestia took up the dare. Luna held her silence. She was a big mare now, and knew what she was doing. The impasse lasted for all of 10 seconds, until a strange gargling noise erupted from the vicinity of the fireplace. Both mares swung their heads about to stare at the location the noise had come from. Suddenly, a smile lit up Celestia's face, and she gave Luna a wink, while nodding towards the fireplace. Luna appeared confused for a moment, until suddenly a smile appeared on her face as well.
"It seems, my sister, that we are not alone. Some knave has been dropping the eaves upon us."
Luna then lit up her horn, and reached out with her magic for the intruder hiding behind the right side of the fireplace.
"Whoa! Whoa! Whoa! Whoa!"
Levitated by Luna's magic, Spike came flying out from behind the fireplace. Luna's magic had Spike hanging upside down and thrashing wildly.
"I'm sorry. I didn't mean to eavesdrop. Honest. I was just sitting here by the fire, and then you two came in, and I got scared, and I—"
Spike's words were stopped as Princess Luna rotated him right side up and placed a hoof on his mouth.
"Thou art forgiven, Spike. We have no issue with thee abiding in this room with us." "Really?"
Spike's relief came out as a half sob. Luna put him down on the floor.
"Truly. But thou shouldst have declared thy presence, instead of yielding to thy fears. What hath thine fear gained thee but to suffer cowering in the corner all this time?" "Yeah, I guess you're right,"
said Spike, reluctantly admitting that Princess Luna might have a point.
"However,"
Luna now glared down upon the tiny dragon,
"thou young dastard art most wicked for having dropped the eaves upon our royal selves. Thou hast heard our privy conversation, and hath earned a just retribution."
As Luna began to speak, Spike's eyes opened wide, and he began to edge away. This soon turned into a total rout as he turned and attempted to run. Spike's efforts to escape were doomed, for Luna's magic easily caught him and had him hanging in midair again.
"Tia, bring forth the royal instrument of torture."
A gleeful smile wreathed Luna's face.
"Of course, Lulu,"
Celestia answered calmly, but then she too grew a wicked smile.
What are you going to do? I'm sorry. I never do it again. No.
Spike's screams split the air as Celestia slowly extended her wing out towards him. Celestia tickled the little dragon in earnest as he wriggled and squirmed.
Stop! Please, stop! I can't take it! No!
Still tickling Spike, though she did relent and ease off, Celestia turned to Luna.
"So, Luna, you were about to tell me why you were using dream rubies before Spike's stomach interrupted us?"
Speaking louder in order to be heard over the sound of Spike's screams of laughter,
Luna answered. Unnecessary risk, Tia. Against a user of the dark magics, I must needs secure the safety of my guards. 6 rubies did I use to protect my guards as I took the shop. The guards traveled close together to support each other, whilst I held myself ready nearby, should direct intervention be required to protect the jewels. None, however, came into danger, and I have already recovered myself from them. 2 more rubies do at present accompany the guards who sought the previous owner. That encounter was peaceful, and other than lending my presence to those guards during the questioning, no further demands have been made upon them.
Apparently, Celestia had stopped tickling Spike during Luna's explanation, because his stomach gurgled loudly from where he hung in midair.
You think I could have one of those dream rubies for a snack?
Both alicorns wore looks of astonishment on their faces. This held for a few moments, until Celestia suddenly burst out laughing. Celestia laughed so hard that she was barely able to stumble back to her couch, before flopping down onto it. It took her more than a full minute before she was recovered sufficiently to speak again.
See, Luna, there's the danger in using your dream rubies. You never know when a hungry young dragon will come along and eat one of them.
Celestia burst out laughing again.
So, I don't get it. Do I get a ruby or not?
Spike asked plaintively. Luna appeared to be in a snit, refusing to say anything, so Spike had to wait for Celestia to recover from her second bout of laughter.
Not these rubies, Spike. If you ate a dream ruby, you'd be eating a part of Luna herself. They are infused with a portion of her mind and magic, allowing her presence to accompany the bearer of the ruby.
Spike, who had been drooling at the thought of tasting a new kind of jewel, suddenly gulped. He did not like the thought of hurting Luna, or any pony, one little bit.
And if anything should destroy one of those rubies, a portion of Luna would likewise be destroyed. Luna knows that, and I fear for her safety when she uses them.
Rather than feeling hungry, Spike's stomach now felt queasy at the thought of eating a part of Luna. Now Luna spoke up.
Be that as it may, my decision to risk using the dream rubies remains mine to make. I know, Luna, but if anything happened to you...
Celestia's comment died out, unspoken. After a moment, Celestia spoke up again, changing the topic.
When will she arrive?
Luna suddenly had a far-off look in her eyes, but after a moment her attention returned to Celestia.
My guards report that the train from Baltimore will depart within the hour, but the journey is long. They shall not arrive until late this night. She is an elder mare, and it is quite plain to me that the shock of her arrest and the stress of travel doth wear heavily upon her. She will need rest before she is ready to assist us in finding Twilight. So, Celestia mused, nothing can be done tonight. Very well. She shall have her night's rest in one of our guest suites. Tomorrow we shall all depart for Ponyville, and see what may be done for locating Twilight. Even me?
Spike asked.
Yes, Spike,
Celestia smiled.
Even you.
5 mares, refreshed in their hearts as well as their bodies, came out of the spa, squinting in the light of the late afternoon sun. They stood in a loose circle, wondering sadly why they had to break apart again, after they had just found so much strength in each other. A soft whisper of rapidly beating wings, barely heard, began to register on their ears, when a brown and tan projectile struck the ground in their midst. The ponies shied back a step at the sudden intrusion, but soon arrested their motion as they got a better look at what had alarmed them. There on the ground stood a medium-sized owl. Fluttershy's eyes opened wide, and her ears pricked forward as soon as she recognized their visitor.
Why, Owlicious, what are you doing here?
"Woo!" Owlicious replied politely to Fluttershy.
Hey!
Rainbow Dash interrupted.
What's the meaning of scaring us? I mean, scaring the others like that.
Fluttershy rose to Owlicious' defense.
Oh, I'm sure Owlicious didn't mean to scare us like that, Rainbow Dash.
I wasn't scared.
Proclaimed Rainbow Dash.
But that bird had better start watching where he's flying.
Woo, woo!
Owlicious replied, confessing that he simply wanted to get their attention. Rainbow Dash demanded, mistaking Owlicious' reply for a snarky comment. Rainbow's ears fell back and her head lowered even as she crouched down, ready to pounce on the nocturnal bird.
Rainbow Dash!
Fluttershy called out in a loud voice, even as she interposed herself between the Pegasus and the owl.
You stop that. Owlicious did not say any such thing. He only said he was trying to get our attention.
The yellow mare paused briefly, and then added softly,
I think it may have something to do with Twilight. What?
Pinkie instantaneously appeared in front of the owl.
You know something about Twilight?
Suddenly, Pinkie was wearing a battered fedora, and her demeanor assumed a hard-bitten look. Pressing her face up against Owlicious's body, Pinkie addressed the owl in a hoarse, gravelly voice.
Okay, story talk. Tell us everything you know.
Alarmed by the invasion of his personal space, Owlicious shuffled backward several paces, but to no avail as Pinkie advanced, keeping her face pressed up against his. This lasted for no more than a second or two before Applejack bit down on Pinkie's tail and pulled her off of the beleaguered bird.
Pinkie!
Applejack called out sharply.
Stop bothering Owlicious. He's probably here 'cause he's just as worried about Twilight as you are.
Pinkie dropped her overacting impersonation of a cheap detective novel character and beamed an ingenious smile at Owlicious.
Sorry, Owlicious. Of course you're not a bad bird. We're buddies, right? No hard feelings?
Owlicious needed a moment to recover from Pinkie's assault. Staring at the pink mare for a moment, he fluffed his feathers and turned his body around until his back was facing her.
Whoo!
He exclaimed sharply. The impact of Owlicious' rejection was immediate. Pinkie's smile dropped from her face, her ears dropped down sideways, and her mane suddenly drooped heavily, threatening to go straight. Pinkie's lower lip quivered.
What did I do?
She asked.
I think you hurt his feelings,
began Fluttershy.
I'll tell you what you did.
Broke in Rainbow Dash.
You called him a pigeon. That's what you did. Owls have their pride, you know.
Owlicious turned his head towards Rainbow and nodded in agreement.
What?
Exclaimed Pinkie.
I said no such thing. I simply said, okay, startled.
Pinkie's voice descended into inchoate mumbles due to the presence of Applejack's hoof in her mouth. For once, Pinkie seemed to notice the hoof in her mouth. She locked her eyes on Applejack for an explanation.
You said it once already, Pinkie. Just be glad I kept you from saying it twice,
Applejack explained. Rarity, who had been holding herself aloof from the Pinkie-spawned turmoil, chose that moment to intervene.
Pinkie, my dear, as I understand it, stoolie is a slang term for a stool pigeon. I know you didn't mean to hurt Owlicious's feelings, but you did, and quite badly. It would be like someone calling you a...
Rarity's mind raced. Every creature she thought of using as an example was sure to bring a pleased smile to Pinkie's face. Suddenly, she had it, the perfect and only possible example.
A party pooper,
Rarity finished her sentence. Pinkie's blue eyes irised open as wide as they could go, accompanied by the sharp inhale of her breath.
A party pooper? No!
Pinkie's wail of anguish rent the air, startling ponies throughout the town square. Even Mayor Mare poked her head out of her office window, trying to discern if some new threat to the town of Ponyville was looming. As soon as she saw Pinkie lowered down onto her stifled joints, with forelegs dramatically raised up into the air, she gave a sniff and retreated back into her office.
Just Pinkie being Pinkie,
she murmured to herself. Rarity waited patiently for Pinkie's histrionics to end.
Ahem. As I was saying, Pinkie, you really hurt Owlicious's feelings. You really need to apologize to him.
Nodding sadly, Pinkie got onto her hooves, and walked several paces towards the owl, and stopped. Owlicious still had his back to her. With her head lowered down, Pinkie began to apologize.
I'm sorry, Owlicious.
I got really carried away with something I saw in a movie. I didn't know that Stooley was a pigeon. I didn't even know that being called a pigeon was an insult to owls. But I'm really sorry that I did say those things. I never wanted to make you sad. Can you forgive me? I pinky promise it will never happen again.
Owlicious turned around and laid a wing on Pinkie Pie's head.
Ooh.
He said. Fluttershy broke out into a broad smile.
He forgives you, Pinky.
Pinkie nuzzled Owlicious and began to smile again.
In fact,
Pinkie raised her head and took a deep breath.
to show you how happy I am that you forgave me, I'm going to give you a pardon.
Whatever Pinkie had been about to say was again muffled by the presence of Applejack's hoof.
Now, what did we all agree on before, Pinky? No parties while we're still waiting to find out what happened to Twilight. And I think Owlicious might feel the same way about that as the rest of us. Fluttershy?
Applejack redirected the conversation.
You were saying something about Owlicious wanting to get our attention? Whoo!
Interjected the bird.
Yes. Owlicious said he had something to tell us.
Whoo! Whoo!
Owlicious cranked his head around and directed his hoots towards Fluttershy.
Oh my, I didn't know you were there with us at the library last night.
Fluttershy responded.
The poor darling,
Murmured Rarity.
he must be heartbroken over Twilight.
I'm so sorry you were left behind, Owlicious. We were all so upset that none of us even remembered you.
Fluttershy began, only to be interrupted.
Whoo!
You weren't upset at being left behind at the library? I don't understand.
Confusion was written upon Fluttershy's face.
What?
Called out Pinkie and Rarity together.
Didn't you care about Twilight?
Was Applejack's plaint. Rainbow, however, simply glowered at the bird.
Whoo! 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 Whoo!
Owlicious must have made quite the speech, because Fluttershy sat down suddenly on her haunches. She blinked her eyes several times, but did not say anything.
Fluttershy, my dear, what did he say?
Prompted Rarity. Fluttershy turned her face to the others.
He said that he heard the princess's order, that no one was to disturb the room where Twilight disappeared. So he took it upon himself to keep watch all night long, making sure that no pony, not even a mouse, would disturb it. Yeah!
Rainbow Dash's hoof pounded the air as she forgot her angry glower of a few seconds ago.
Now that's something I can respect. Way to go, Owlicious.
Owlicious turned his head to Rainbow Dash and acknowledged her praise with a slight nod.
Wow, that's super terrific!
Exclaimed Pinkie.
Oh, that was so brave and noble of you,
Gushed Rarity.
I think you really do care about Twilight. She'd be right proud of you,
Declared Applejack. However, Fluttershy did not speak, and for once the others noticed the absence of her voice.
Fluttershy, darling, is there something the matter? You're so quiet.
Asked Rarity. Fluttershy let out a nervous breath.
Owlicious said that while he was keeping watch, something strange happened. What?
Exclaimed Rainbow Dash, shooting 6 feet into the air.
Did somebody break in and mess with the room? When I get my hoofs on them out? Ah!
Rainbow gasped in sudden pain and dropped heavily out of the air, her wings held at full extension and canted at odd angles. Fluttershy turned to the cyan mare and scolded her.
Rainbow Dash, you know that you shouldn't be flying in your condition. You just set your recovery back by a full day.
Rainbow was visibly winced as she slowly attempted to fold her wings again. Sighing glumly, she replied,
Yeah, I know. It's just, I gotta do something to help Twilight.
Pinkie giggled.
Oh, Dashy, we all feel that way.
Sure thing, Sugar Cube. We know how you feel. When they catch the pony what gave Twilight that book, I'm kind of hoping that I get the chance to buck the apples right out of their family tree, if you know what I mean.
Applejack finished her speech with a hard glower. Her ears were pinned back hard against the nape of her neck, and her tail was swishing menacingly. Silence descended upon the group as they contemplated the depth of Applejack's anger. Although in Pinkie's case, she was thinking about what Applejack would do if the family tree in question was a pear tree. Pinkie's question was never uttered, however, as Owlicious took the brief silence for an opportunity to continue his narrative.
Whoo! Whoo! Whoo!
Pinkie was the first to answer.
Come on, Fluttershy, tell us what Owlicious is saying.
Pinky's comment refocused the attention of the group back onto Fluttershy, who shied back, not caring for the sudden attention.
Owlicious says to tell Rainbow Dash, the no pony disturbed the library last night, but Owlicious did see something glowing in the room where Twilight vanished.
Something glowing? That's it?
Feeling let down by the absence of any physical intruder, Rainbow Dash dismissed Owlicious's report.
Ooh!
Was the reply made back to the Rainbow Mane Mare.
He says that there was a lot of glowing objects.
Fluttershy translated faithfully.
Ooh! Ooh! And that they were getting brighter and darker. Ooh! Ooh!
Owlicious ruffled his feathers and settled back, having said his piece.
But not all were glowing at the same time.
Ooh! I want to see the glowing things.
Pinky enthused.
Maybe they're ghosts.
Pinky's comment served to reignite Rainbow Dash's interest again.
Ghosts? Yeah! Maybe I can punch some ghosts and make them tell me where Twilight is.
Applejack took up the task of reining in the combative mare. You do know, Rainbow, that you can't lay a hoof on any ghost. Besides, I don't think there were any ghosts involved. Princess Celestia already told us it was that book's magic what done pulled Twilight into it.
No ghosts?
Pinky's lower lip quivered.
Indeed not,
answered Rarity.
But perhaps the glow is from some residual magic, from whatever spell took away our Twilight.
Rarity paused to think.
As loath as I am to give up my beauty sleep, I think I will need to spend the night in the library and see this glow for myself, and then send a report to the princess. It's the least I can do for Twilight.
That's a right fine idea, Rarity. And I'm joining you, answered Applejack. That way I can keep you from accessorizing the whole library.
What? A lady would never dream of violating another pony's belongings, much less their home. And I am a lady.
Rarity ended her speech with her muzzle elevated and her head cocked to the side, the perfect picture of elegant outrage. She held this position for a second, and then snorted, releasing her pose.
But I do confess that I might be tempted, just a little, to redecorate Twilight's abode. Thank you, Applejack. I would be ever so glad to have you accompany me.
Hey!
Announced Rainbow Dash.
Count me in. I'm going with you.
You're welcome to come, Rainbow. But you know you don't need to be there. It'll probably just be something really boring. Rainbow caught Applejack's gaze.
I know, Applejack. But if spending the night at the library on the off chance that it might help Twilight is something that I can do, then I'm going to do it. I need to do it.
Rainbow looked down and kicked glumly at the grass under her feet.
Besides, I'm kind of grounded right now. I can't even fly up to my own home and sleep in my own bed.
Oh, you're welcome to sleep in my house, Rainbow, if you want.
Fluttershy interjected softly, a hopeful look on her face.
Thanks, Fluttershy,
replied Rainbow Dash.
But I'm staying at the library tonight.
Fluttershy retreated, now with a sad look on her face. Pinky had been watching the interplay between her friends. Suddenly, she stiffened up and quivered excitedly.
Ooh! I have an idea! Why don't we all come over and have a sleepover?
Pinky screamed the last word ecstatically. Pinky, I told you that we ain't having no parties.
Well, duh,
Pinky retorted.
I know that. But if you and Rarity and Dashy are going to be spending the night at the library, then Fluttershy and I should come along as well.
Oh, I couldn't,
began Fluttershy.
Oh, Fluttershy, you're being silly. Of course you need to come,
chirped Pinky.
Didn't you tell us that you didn't sleep all last night? What if it happens again and you miss another night's sleep? That'll be 2 nights without any sleep. And if you miss the night after that, that'll make it 3 nights. And if you miss the night after that, it'll be 4 nights. And before you know it, you might never ever sleep again. And that would be bad because sleeping is great and you wouldn't want to miss something that's great.
Surprisingly, it was Rainbow who supported Pinky's argument.
Pinky's right, every pony. Wouldn't you feel a lot better if you spent the night with all your friends rather than try sleeping alone again?
The reminder of her previous night's ordeal was sufficient to convince the butter-colored mare.
Oh, yes. I guess I would like to join you at the library. That is, if you don't mind.
Fluttershy retreated shyly behind her pink locks.
Then it's settled.
Rarity spoke authoritatively.
Let's all meet back here at the library an hour before dark. Bring your own bedding and pillows, every pony. We'll be sleeping on the floor in the main library so as not to disturb anything. We are already bending the princess's command by being there. We certainly don't want to give Princess Alessia any cause to be truly disappointed with us.